A powerful land cartel cornered a lone black woman on her remote ranch, thinking she was an easy target. They had no idea they had just declared war on a federal agent. The confrontation was swift and brutal, a prelude to a war they were not prepared to fight. They thought they were taking land. They were actually walking into a trap years in the making. 3 dusty pickup trucks rolled up to Leah Carter's farmhouse, kicking up a cloud of Texas dust. 4 men, hard-faced and confident, got out. The leader, a man with a jagged scar on his cheek named Jed, stepped onto her porch as if he already owned it. "This is a final courtesy call, ma'am," Jed said, his voice a low growl. "Mr. Thorne wants this land. The offer is final." Leah stood in the doorway, her frame silhouetted against the dim light inside. She didn't flinch. "And my answer is final. Get off my property." Jed smirked and glanced at his men. "I don't think you understand the situation." A cold, unnerving calm settled over Leah's face. "Oh, I understand it better than you ever will. This is the story of how one woman turned the tables on a ruthless criminal empire. If you believe no one is above the law, smash that like button, subscribe for more thrilling stories, and comment with your city and the word justice to show your support. For the past 5 years, the world knew Leah Carter as a quiet, hard-working rancher. At 38, she ran Carter's Respite, a sprawling property in the desolate heart of West Texas, with an efficiency that earned the grudging respect of her neighbors. She kept to herself, raising her teenage nephew Marcus and managing the cattle. No one knew that Leah Carter Rancher was a carefully constructed cover. Her real identity was Special Agent Leah Carter of the DEA, a deep-cover operative who had willingly disappeared to hunt the man who had murdered her brother. The ranch wasn't just a hideout, it was her family's legacy, the last piece of a life that had been stolen from her. The central problem was a man named Silas Thorne, known locally as the Colonel. Thorne wasn't just a wealthy landowner, he was the undisputed king of a criminal enterprise that stretched across 3 states. His organization dealt in everything from drug trafficking to extortion, and he ruled with a combination of folksy charm and absolute brutality. Thorne wanted Carter's Respite, and he wasn't used to hearing the word no. The ranch's strategic location, bordering a series of impassable canyons that provided a perfect hidden corridor to the border, made it the final crucial piece in his smuggling empire. With her land, his operation would become virtually untouchable. But Leah's refusal wasn't just about protecting her home. It was the calculated move of a predator. For 5 years, she had patiently gathered intelligence, mapping out Thorne's network, identifying his lieutenants, and pinpointing the weaknesses in his organization. Her brother, David, also a federal agent, had gotten too close to exposing Thorne and had paid for it with his life in a staged car accident. The cartel's invasion wasn't the end of her mission. It was the trigger she had been waiting for. Now the hunter was about to become the hunted, and she would use their own brutal tactics against them, turning their strength into a fatal flaw. Thorne thought he was dealing with a simple rancher who was in over her head. He had no idea he was provoking a highly trained operative with a deeply personal score to settle. What happens when a predator discovers its prey is a far more dangerous hunter. And can Leah get her revenge without losing herself in the process? Jed and his men drove away, leaving a trail of dust and arrogance. Leah watched from the porch until their trucks were just specks on the horizon. The moment they disappeared, the quiet rancher persona dissolved. Her face hardened into a mask of cold fury and focus. She locked the heavy farmhouse door, the deadbolt sliding home with a solid, definitive thud. She didn't head for the kitchen or the living room. Instead, she walked to a small pantry off the main hall, moved aside a shelf of canned goods, and pressed a discreet panel in the wall. A section of the wall slid open silently, revealing a steep staircase leading down into a concrete bunker. The air below was cool and smelled of gun oil and electronics. This was her real command center. A bank of monitors glowed on one wall, showing feeds from hidden cameras placed all over her property. She replayed the footage from the porch, zooming in on Jed's face, then on the license plates of the trucks. She ran the plates through a secure database on a hardened laptop. The results came back instantly, all registered to shell corporations owned by Thorn Enterprises. It was exactly what she expected. On the opposite wall, an arsenal was meticulously arranged on pegboards. A Sig Sauer P226, her service pistol, a customized AR-15 with an array of optics, and a high-powered Remington 700 sniper rifle. Below them, boxes of ammunition were stacked neatly. For 5 years, this equipment had been her silent secret. Now it was time to put it to use. Just as she was running diagnostics on her encrypted satellite phone, she heard the sound of a dirt bike approaching. She quickly ascended the stairs and sealed the bunker, replacing the shelf just as her nephew Marcus burst through the back door. At 17, he was tall and lanky, with his father's eyes and a constant air of restless energy. He'd seen the trucks leaving. "Who were those guys, Aunt Leah?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. They looked serious. "Just some businessman with a bad offer," Leah replied, her tone deliberately casual. She couldn't afford to show him the truth. He was the one thing in her life she had to protect at all costs. "Businessmen? They looked like thugs. One of them had a gun tucked in his belt. I saw it from the ridge." Marcus wasn't a kid anymore. He noticed things. Leah met his gaze. There was no point in lying completely. "They work for a man named Thorn. He wants our land." I told him no. "And they're just going to accept that?" He pressed, unconvinced. "No," she said simply. The honesty of that single word hung in the air between them. "Which is why I need you to do something for me. No questions. Go out to the south generator. Check the fuel levels for the backup power to the electric fences. Top it off. Then double-check the solar array connections. I want everything at 100% before sundown." Marcus knew this was more than routine maintenance. It was a command. He saw the shift in her posture, the unwavering steel in her eyes that he rarely saw. He nodded slowly. "Okay, Aunt Leah, I'll get it done." He grabbed an apple from the counter and headed back out, the unspoken tension following him. Miles away, in a lavish leather and mahogany office overlooking his own vast estate, Silas Thorn poured 2 glasses of expensive whiskey. He slid one across his polished desk to Jed, who sat nursing a bruised ego. Thorn was in his late 50s, with silver hair and a disarmingly warm smile that never reached his cold, calculating eyes. "So the woman was unpersuaded," Thorn said, his voice a smooth, calm baritone. It wasn't a question. "She's tougher than she looks, Colonel," Jed admitted, avoiding his boss's gaze. "Told us to get off her property, didn't even blink." Thorn took a slow sip of his whiskey, savoring it. "Stubbornness is a flaw, Jed. A flaw in a piece of machinery that must be corrected. We need that corridor. The merchandise for our new partners arrives in 2 weeks. There can be no delays and no witnesses." He set his glass down with a soft click. "Your courtesy call was the polite way. Now we will be more direct. I don't want her gone. Not yet. I want her broken. I want her to understand that her world is about to be systematically dismantled until the only thing she has left to give me is the deed to that land." He leaned forward, his smile finally vanishing. "Take 2 men. Go back tonight. Don't go to the house. Go to the barn. Burn it. Destroy her well pump. Kill a few of her cattle and leave them where she'll find them in the morning. Send a message. Let her know that her isolation is not a strength. It is a vulnerability we will exploit until she begs us to stop." Jed nodded, a grim smile forming on his face. This, he understood. "Yes, sir, we'll make her see reason." Back at Carter's respite, as the sun began to set, painting the Texas sky in shades of orange and purple, Leah wasn't repairing fences. She was in the bunker, cleaning the precision optics on her sniper rifle. On a monitor beside her, a satellite map was displayed, with Thorn's estate marked with a red circle. She already knew they would be back, and she was counting on it. Their predictability was her greatest weapon. They thought they were sending a message. They had no idea they were walking into an ambush she had been planning for 5 years. Darkness fell like a shroud over Carter's respite. The only light came from a sliver of moon and a universe of stars, a cold and indifferent audience. Leah lay prone on a rocky ridge 200 yards from her barn, the Remington 700 resting on its bipod. Through the night vision scope, the familiar landscape was transformed into an eerie green battlefield. She was perfectly still, her breathing slow and controlled. She had fed Marcus, made sure he was settled in his room with his headphones on, and then slipped out into the night. Her phone, connected to the bunker's camera feeds, lay beside her, showing a silent, empty farmhouse. Around 11 p.m., a flicker of headlights appeared on the distant access road. Leah's body tensed, not with fear, but with anticipation. A single pickup truck, driving with its lights on as if on a casual errand, rolled to a stop about 50 yards from the barn. Jed got out of the passenger side. 2 other men, burly and anonymous in the dark, climbed out of the driver's side and the truck bed. They carried gas cans and crowbars. They were loud, their laughter and crude jokes carrying on the still night air. They were amateurs playing a professional's game. "All right, let's get this done quick," Jed ordered, his voice a low rumble. "You two, start on the well pump, smash it to pieces. I'll get the barn ready for a bonfire." Leah watched them through her scope, the crosshairs settling first on the truck's engine block. That was target number 1. Trap them, isolate them. She exhaled slowly, her finger tightening on the trigger. But just as she was about to fire, a light flicked on in the farmhouse. On her phone screen, she saw Marcus's bedroom window illuminate. He had heard them. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This had to be fast, and it had to be silent. She abandoned the rifle shot. A high-velocity round would wake the entire county. She grabbed the suppressed Sig Sauer from her hip holster, her mind racing through a new set of calculations. She slid backward off the ridge, melting into the shadows and circling around, using the terrain and darkness as her cover. Her boots made no sound on the dry earth. She was a ghost in her own backyard. The 2 men were at the well pump, taking turns swinging a sledgehammer at the main pipe. The rhythmic clang echoed unnaturally in the quiet. Jed was splashing gasoline along the base of the barn, the acrid smell fouling the air. He was 100 feet from the other 2, completely exposed. Leah crept up behind a row of water troughs, now less than 30 yards from him. Jed pulled out a lighter, the small flame flickering in his hand. That was the signal. Leah rose from her cover. The first shot was a soft phut, barely audible over the chirping of crickets. The lighter fell from Jed's hand. He clutched his chest, a look of pure shock on his face, before collapsing into a heap. He never made a sound. The 2 men at the well pump stopped. "Jed, you dropped something," one of them called out. He started walking toward the barn, his partner right behind him. They were moving into the darkness away from the moonlight, their eyes not yet adjusted. A fatal mistake. Leah was already moving, flanking them. She was a shadow among shadows. Foot, foot. 2 more suppressed shots in quick succession. The men fell where they stood, their brief, violent intrusion over before they even understood what was happening. Silence descended once more, heavy and absolute. The whole engagement had taken less than 90 seconds. Leah did a quick sweep of the area, her pistol held at the ready. The threats were neutralized. She dragged Jed's body behind the barn, out of sight from the house. Then she dealt with the other 2, moving with an efficient, practiced strength. She retrieved their weapons and the gas cans. The last thing she did was walk to their truck. She opened the glove box and found what she was looking for, a burner phone. She knew it would have 1 number on speed dial, Thorn. She didn't call it. Instead, she took the phone, wiped the truck clean of any prints, and used her own encrypted device to send a single anonymous text to the local sheriff's office in the next county over, reporting an abandoned vehicle on a public road miles away from her property. She would drive the truck there herself. and leave it. The bodies would disappear into the vast, unforgiving Texas wilderness. They would become another local mystery, men who just vanished. As she worked, the back porch light of the farmhouse switched on, cutting a sharp yellow rectangle into the darkness. Marcus stepped out, a baseball bat held uncertainly in his hands. "Aunt Leah?" he called out, his voice trembling slightly. "I heard noises. Are you out here?" Leah froze in the shadows, her hands covered in the grim reality of her other life. She looked from the bodies hidden behind the barn to the terrified face of the boy she had sworn to protect. The cartel was one problem. This was another. She stepped out into the light, her face an unreadable mask. "I'm here, Marcus. Everything's fine. Come back inside." But he saw the look in her eyes. He saw the tension in her body. He knew it wasn't fine at all. Marcus stared at her, the baseball bat suddenly feeling flimsy and useless in his hands. He could see the hard set of her jaw, the way her eyes scanned the darkness behind her, not like a rancher checking on her property, but like a soldier scanning for threats. He lowered the bat but didn't move. "What do you mean everything's fine?" he demanded, his voice a hoarse whisper. "I heard pops, 3 of them, like a nail gun but not. And those men from this afternoon, where are they?" Leah held his gaze, a silent battle of wills playing out on the porch. Lying to him now would be a betrayal he'd never forgive, but the truth was a weight that could crush him. She made a decision. She had been treating him like a kid, but the kid was gone. A young man who deserved a piece of the truth stood in his place. "Get inside. Lock the door," she said, her voice low and firm. She followed him into the kitchen, the warmth and light feeling alien after the cold, dark business outside. She sat him down at the table. "Your father, my brother David, he didn't die in a car accident," she began, the words tasting like ash. Marcus's face went pale. "He was a federal agent, so am I. We were investigating Silas Thorne. David got too close and Thorne had him killed. I've spent the last 5 years building a case, waiting for the right moment to take him down." Marcus was speechless, his mind reeling. His aunt, the woman who taught him to ride a horse and fix a fence, was a DEA agent. The story of his father's death, a tragedy that had defined his life, was a lie. "Those men tonight," he finally managed to say, "they were his." "Yes," Leah confirmed. "They came to send a message, to burn the barn, to hurt us. I sent one back." She chose her next words carefully. "I convinced them to leave. They won't be back." It wasn't the full truth, but it was enough for now. His fear was slowly being replaced by a dawning, horrified understanding. "This is why you're so good with that rifle. All that target practice. I need you to trust me, Marcus," she said, her voice softening for the first time. "This is bigger than our land. This is about justice for your father. But it's going to get more dangerous. I need to know you can handle this." He looked at the woman across the table, his aunt, and saw a complete stranger, a warrior. He thought of his dad, the faded photos, the stories he barely remembered. He nodded, his throat too tight to speak. "Good," Leah said, her professional demeanor snapping back into place. "Now go to your room, lock your door, put on your headphones and turn them up loud. Do not come out until I come and get you, no matter what you hear. Do you understand?" He nodded again, a silent oath passing between them. He walked to his room like a sleepwalker and did as he was told. The moment his door clicked shut, Leah was back in motion. The next 2 hours were a blur of grim, methodical work. She hitched a small trailer to her ranch truck, loaded the bodies, and covered them with a heavy tarp. She drove Jed's truck, following a winding, unused dirt track that led to a remote canyon on the far edge of her property, a place the locals called the Devil's Jawbone. There, she pushed the truck into the ravine, where it would likely not be found for years, if ever. She returned for the bodies, burying them deep in the unforgiving Texas soil in separate, unmarked graves. She scrubbed the ground near the barn, erasing any trace of what happened. By the time she was done, the only evidence of the night's violence was the memory of it. As she walked back to the house under the first hints of dawn, exhaustion warred with adrenaline. She had crossed a line tonight. There was no going back. The sun was fully up when Silas Thorne's phone finally rang. He had been up all night, a growing knot of unease tightening in his gut. Jed was reckless, but he was never out of contact. He answered on the first ring. It was one of his contacts in the county sheriff's office. "Colonel, we got a strange one," the deputy said. "Found one of your corporate trucks abandoned out on Route 79, wiped clean. No driver, no prints, nothing. Figured you'd want to know." Thorne's grip tightened on the phone. Abandoned, wiped clean. Jed and two of his best men had vanished into thin air. His message had not been delivered. Instead, one had been sent to him, a very clear one. The woman wasn't stubborn, she was dangerous. His calm, controlled facade cracked, revealing the predator beneath. This was no longer a simple land acquisition, it was a personal insult. He ended the call and immediately dialed another number. "Sheriff Miller," he said, his voice deceptively pleasant. "Colonel, what can I do for you this fine morning?" The sheriff's voice on the other end was obsequious. "I have a concern about one of my potential neighbors," Thorne said smoothly. "A Ms. Leah Carter, out at the old Respite Ranch. I sent some of my men to make a final offer on her property yesterday, and I haven't heard from them since. I'm worried something might have happened to them. Perhaps you could go out there and perform a welfare check." For me, there was a brief pause. "Of course, Colonel. I'll head out there myself. I'll let you know what I find." Thorne hung up, a cold smile touching his lips. He had underestimated her once. He would not make that mistake again. If she wouldn't break, he would use the law he owned to crush her. Leah heard the dispatch call on her encrypted scanner 10 minutes before the cruiser appeared. "Unit 21, proceed to Carter property, Respite Ranch for a welfare check. Reference Silas Thorne." The voice was calm, routine. But to Leah, it was a declaration of war. Thorne wasn't sending thugs anymore. He was sending his uniformed enforcer. She walked into the living room where Marcus was sitting, staring blankly at a TV screen. He hadn't slept. "The sheriff is on his way here," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "He's in Thorne's pocket. He's not here to help." Marcus looked up, fear flashing in his eyes. "What are we going to do?" "We are going to be exactly what we appear to be," Leah instructed, her gaze sharp and commanding. "A concerned aunt and her nephew. You were worried last night. I was calming you down. We heard nothing. We saw nothing after those men left yesterday afternoon. You let me do the talking. You just look scared and confused. Can you do that?" He swallowed hard and nodded. "Yeah, I think so." "Don't think. Do." Sheriff Miller's patrol car crunched up the gravel driveway. Miller was a big man, soft around the middle, with a face that looked permanently flushed. He moved with the slow, deliberate confidence of a man who owned the ground he walked on. He tipped his hat as Leah met him on the porch. "Ma'am," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Sheriff Miller." "Sorry to bother you this early." "Sheriff, is there a problem?" Leah asked, her voice pitched with just the right amount of weary concern. "Well, that's what I'm here to find out. Got a call from Silas Thorne. He's worried about some of his men. Said he sent them out here yesterday to discuss a business proposal, Jedediah Stone and two others. He hasn't heard from them since. You see them?" "They were here," Leah said, nodding. "Late afternoon, they made an offer for my land. I refused. They left." Miller leaned against the porch railing, studying her. "Just like that? Jed's not known for taking no for an answer." "He wasn't pleased, Sheriff," Leah admitted. "But they left. I haven't seen them since. I assumed they went back to report to their boss." Miller's eyes flickered past her to Marcus, who was standing in the doorway. "And you, son, you see these men leave?" Marcus flinched at the direct question. I saw their truck drive off," he stammered, looking at the floor. "Right," Miller said, his tone dripping with false sincerity. He pushed himself off the railing. "Well, since they were last seen on your property, I'd like to take a look around. Standard procedure." It wasn't a request. Leah knew she couldn't refuse without giving him probable cause for a warrant. "Of course, Sheriff. Look wherever you need to." Miller walked a slow, deliberate circle around the house, his eyes scanning everything. He kicked at the dirt near the well pump, peered into the barn. He found nothing. Leah had been too thorough, but he wasn't looking for evidence. He was looking for an opening. He found it when he walked back to the porch. He stopped in front of Marcus again. "You know, son, it's a serious thing when 3 men go missing. Obstruction of justice, aiding and abetting, those carry heavy penalties. Are you absolutely sure you didn't hear anything last night? A truck coming back, an argument?" "No," Marcus said, his voice barely a whisper. Miller's smile vanished. "I don't believe you. I think you're scared. And I think your aunt here has put you in a very difficult position. Why don't you come down to the station with me? We can have a nice private chat." Without her, this was it. The turning point. The threat was no longer veiled. He was trying to separate them, to use Marcus as a lever to break her. Leah's entire demeanor shifted. The mask of the worried rancher fell away, replaced by something cold and hard. "He's not going anywhere, Sheriff," she said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. Miller chuckled. "I don't think that's your call to make, Mom." "Oh, it is," Leah replied, taking a small step forward. "Because if you try to put my nephew in your car, I'm going to have to make a phone call. I'd be calling my old boss at the DEA, and I'd have to tell him about a very interesting burner phone I found. The kind of phone that only has 1 number on speed dial. The kind of phone that a man like Jed would use to call his boss, Silas Thorne, right after, say, bribing a county sheriff." Miller froze. His face went from flushed to pale in a heartbeat. He stared at Leah, truly seeing her for the first time. He saw not a victim, but a predator. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Leah asked softly. "Jed's phone is gone, isn't it, Sheriff? And his truck, and his men. And you're standing on my porch, doing Thorne's dirty work, trying to intimidate a minor. How do you think that's going to look on a federal racketeering indictment? You have 2 choices. You can get in your car and drive away and tell Thorne you found nothing. Or you can stay and we can see whose career ends first. Yours is a sure thing. Mine, I'm a ghost. I've got nothing to lose." The 2 of them stood locked in a silent standoff. The friendly morning visit had become a raw display of power. Miller, for the first time in years, was out of his depth. He had brought a badge to a gunfight he didn't even know was happening. He took a slow step back, his hand hovering near his gun before he thought better of it. He turned without another word, got into his cruiser, and drove away, much faster than he had arrived. Marcus stared at Leah, his mouth agape. What did you just do?" "I changed the rules," Leah said, watching the dust settle. "Now Thorne knows. This isn't about land anymore. This is a war." Sheriff Miller drove straight to Thorne's estate, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. He stormed into the mahogany office without knocking. Thorne was standing by the window, looking out over his domain, a picture of calm. He didn't turn around. "Well?" Thorne asked, his voice even. "She knows," Miller blurted out, pacing the expensive rug. "She's not some rancher, Silas. She threatened me, talked about the DEA, federal indictments. She mentioned a burner phone, Jed's phone. She knows who I am, what I do for you. This is bad. This is really bad." Thorne finally turned, a flicker of genuine surprise in his eyes. He had expected a report of a stubborn or frightened woman, not a tactical counter-threat. "DEA? That's specific. Did she give a name?" "No name. She just called herself a ghost, said she had nothing to lose." Miller ran a hand over his face. "We need to back off. Whatever you want with that land, it's not worth this kind of heat." Thorne's surprise hardened into something else. Intrigue. He walked to his desk and sat down, steepling his fingers. "On the contrary, Sheriff, it seems the value of that land just went up. A ghost. I like that. It has a certain poetry to it." He looked at Miller, his gaze dismissive. "You've been compromised, Sheriff. Your usefulness in this matter has come to an end. Go home, do your job. Forget you ever heard the name Leah Carter. If I need you, I will call. If I don't, you will consider our business relationship terminated." Miller stared, dumbfounded. "Terminated? Silas, you can't just—" "I can," Thorne interrupted, his voice dropping to an icy whisper. "And I have. Now get out of my office." Defeated, Miller left, the heavy oak doors closing behind him like the lid of a coffin. Thorne was alone with his thoughts. This changed everything. The woman wasn't just defending her property, she was hunting him. The murder of her brother, David Carter. He vaguely remembered the name, an ambitious federal agent who had been asking too many questions 5 years ago. It all clicked into place. This was revenge. A slow, patient, 5-year-long game of revenge. A cold, genuine smile spread across Thorne's face. He finally had a worthy opponent. Back at the ranch, Leah took Marcus down to the bunker. His eyes widened at the sight of the arsenal and the bank of monitors. It was real. Everything she had said was real. "Okay," Leah said, pulling up a satellite map on the main screen. "The game has changed. My cover is blown. Thorne now knows I'm not who I say I am. That makes him more dangerous, but also more predictable. He'll stop sending amateurs. The next wave will be professionals. We need to prepare." "Prepare how?" Marcus asked, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and awe. "What can we do?" "First, you're going to learn," Leah said, handing him a thick binder. "This is everything I have on Thorne's operation. His key personnel, his front companies, his supply routes. I need a second set of eyes on this. Look for patterns I might have missed, connections, weaknesses." She then turned to the weapons wall. "Second, you're going to learn how to use this." She took down a simple 9mm pistol and a shotgun. "Not for fighting, for surviving. If they get past me, you need to know how to defend this house, how to get to the emergency exit, and how to call for help on the satellite phone." Over the next 2 days, the ranch transformed into a training camp. Leah was a demanding, relentless instructor. She taught Marcus firearms safety, basic marksmanship, and tactical awareness. He learned how to spot signs of surveillance, how to reinforce doors and windows, and how to navigate the ranch's hidden tunnels that connected the bunker to the barn and a concealed exit in the canyons. The boy, who had been terrified holding a baseball bat, was slowly being forged into something else by the heat of necessity. He was a quick study, his grief and anger fueling a desperate need to be useful, to be a part of his father's legacy of justice. In the quiet moments between training, they talked. Leah told him about David, not just as a hero agent, but as her brother. The funny, reckless older brother who taught her how to fish and always cheated at cards. She explained how Thorne's corruption had spread through the region, poisoning everything it touched, from law enforcement to local businesses. For the first time, Marcus understood the true scope of the fight they were in. It wasn't just about their family, it was about everyone Thorne had ever hurt. On the third night, an alarm chirped softly in the bunker. One of the perimeter sensors on the far western edge of the property had been tripped. It wasn't an animal. The sensor was thermal and seismic, calibrated to detect vehicles and multiple human signatures. Leah looked at the monitor, her face grim. "They're here." She turned to Marcus. "Go time. You know the protocol. Get to the house. Lock it down. Monitor the cameras from the tablet and keep the comms open. Do not engage unless they breach the house. Stay out of sight." Marcus hesitated for a fraction of a second, his eyes locking with hers. "Be careful, Aunt Leah." "Always," she said, strapping on a tactical vest and grabbing her AR-15. She checked the magazine, chambered a round, and slipped out of the bunker into the starless night. This time, there would be no silent takedowns. Thorne had declared war. Now, he was about to get one. Leah moved through the darkness with the fluid grace of a predator. She knew this land, every rock and every ravine, better than anyone. It was her home field. The night was moonless, which gave her the advantage. She wore night vision goggles, turning the black landscape into a world of green and grey shapes. Through her earpiece, she heard Marcus's steady breathing from the farmhouse. "Status," she whispered. "I'm in position. Kitchen lookout." Marcus's voice came back, tense but clear. "I have camera feeds up. I see 2 vehicles, black SUVs, no lights, stopped about a half-mile from the western fence line. They've cut the wire. I count 8 individuals moving on foot. They're spreading out, military formation." "Confirmed," Leah said. "Professionals, just like we thought. They're trying to encircle the house. They don't know I'm not in it." She was positioned in a cluster of boulders, overlooking the main approach path. She had her AR-15, but beside her lay the Remington sniper rifle. She wasn't planning on a firefight. She was planning an extermination. She watched as 4 of the men advanced in a diamond formation, their movements precise and coordinated. They carried suppressed rifles, moving from cover to cover. They were good, but they were on her turf. "Marcus, I'm going to initiate contact," she said calmly. "They're using hand signals. The leader is on point. Once I fire, they'll break for cover and try to lay down suppression fire on my position. I need you to pinpoint their locations for me when they scatter." "Copy that," he replied. Leah settled behind the sniper rifle, the powerful scope cutting through the darkness. She lined up her shot on the point man, the one giving the orders. She didn't aim for his chest. She aimed for the radio on his belt. She exhaled, her world narrowing to the crosshairs and the target. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle boomed, the sound echoing across the plains. It was a loud, clear message. Through the scope, she saw the radio on the leader's hip explode in a shower of sparks. The man screamed and dove for cover, clutching his side. His team instantly scattered, just as she predicted, unleashing a volley of suppressed fire toward the muzzle flash. Bullets whizzed past her position, chipping away at the rocks. "Talk to me, Marcus," she said, already moving, slinging the rifle over her shoulder and grabbing the AR-15. "Got 'em!" Marcus's voice was a torrent of information. 2 behind the dry creek bed, 100 yards to your left. The leader is down behind that big mesquite tree, directly ahead of your last position. 1 more is circling wide to your right, trying to flank you. "Good boy," Leah said, a grim smile on her face. She had already abandoned the sniper's nest, crawling through a narrow gap in the rocks to a new position 30 yards away. They were shooting at a ghost. She raised her rifle, peering through the thermal scope. The heat signatures of the 2 men in the creek bed glowed brightly. She fired 2 quick, controlled bursts. 2 of the heat signatures vanished. 2 down, she reported. "The flanker is still moving," Marcus warned. "He's closing on your old position fast." "Let him," Leah said. She had left a little surprise there. A motion-activated flashbang grenade, a brilliant white light and a deafening bang suddenly tore through the night, followed by a man's disoriented cry. Leah was already on the move again, circling around to come up behind him. The fight was brutal and methodical. Leah and Marcus worked in perfect sync, a 2-person unit of hunter and spotter. She used her knowledge of the terrain to stay 1 step ahead of them, while he used the cameras to feed her real-time intelligence. They were no longer aunt and nephew. They were a fire team. The leader, bleeding from the shrapnel from his radio, realized his team was being dismantled. He had lost 4 men in as many minutes. "Fall back!" he yelled into his backup comms unit. "Fall back to the extraction point!" The remaining men broke and ran, their professional discipline shattered by the sheer ferocity of the unseen attacker. Leah didn't let them go. She pursued them, a relentless shadow in the night, picking them off one by one as they retreated. She wasn't trying to capture them. She wasn't trying to wound them. She was sending a message back to Thorn written in blood. Finally, only the leader was left. He scrambled toward the fence line, panting and bleeding. Suddenly, Leah was there, stepping out from behind a rock outcropping, her rifle leveled at his chest. He froze, raising his hands. Who are you?" he gasped. "The ghost," she said, her voice cold as the grave. "Tell Thorn his army is gone. Tell him I'm coming for him next. Now run." She lowered her rifle. The man stared at her for a second, his eyes wide with terror, then turned and fled into the darkness, never looking back. Leah stood there for a long moment, the adrenaline slowly beginning to recede, leaving an icy calm in its place. She clicked her comms. "Marcus, it's over. Area is secure." "Copy that," he breathed, his voice shaky with relief. "Aunt Leah, we did it." "Yes," she said, looking back toward the distant lights of her farmhouse. "We did. Now the real work begins." She had defended her home. She had proven she was a force to be reckoned with. But this was just a battle. The war for her brother's justice and for her own soul was still waiting to be won. The lone survivor, a man named Cortez, who had once prided himself on his steady nerves, stumbled into Silas Thorne's office, his face pale and his expensive tactical gear torn and bloodied. Thorne stood behind his desk, a decanter of whiskey in his hand, the picture of calm authority. He didn't offer Cortez a drink. "Report," Thorne said, his voice dangerously soft. Cortez swallowed, his throat dry. "It was a ghost. She was everywhere and nowhere. She picked us off one by one. We never had a chance." He hesitated, then delivered the final devastating blow. "She let me live. She said to tell you your army is gone and that she's coming for you next." For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the ticking of a grandfather clock. Thorne's placid expression didn't change, but a vein pulsed in his temple. He slowly placed the decanter on the polished mahogany desk. Then, with a sudden, violent motion, he swept his arm across the surface, sending the decanter, glasses, and a crystal ashtray crashing against the far wall in a spray of glass and amber liquid. "Get out!" he roared, the sound raw and animalistic. Cortez scrambled from the room, leaving Thorne alone with the wreckage of his composure. The game was over. This was no longer a chess match with a worthy opponent. This was an infestation, a problem to be eradicated. He picked up his phone and dialed his head of security. "Lock it down," he commanded. "Double the patrols on the estate. I want thermal scanners on every approach, pressure plates on the service roads. No one gets in or out without my direct authorization. I want this place turned into a fortress, now." He hung up, his breathing heavy. She wanted to come for him? Fine. He would let her break herself against his walls. Meanwhile, back at Carter's respite, the grim work was done. Leah had disposed of the bodies with the same cold efficiency as before, erasing all traces of the battle. In the bunker, the smell of gun solvent hung in the air as she and Marcus methodically cleaned their weapons. There was no celebration, only a quiet, shared understanding that they had survived another night. But survival was no longer the goal. "He'll be expecting a direct assault on his compound," Leah said, snapping the slide of her pistol back into place. "He'll turn it into a fortress. It's what men like him do. They hide behind their money and their walls." "So we can't go to him," Marcus said, looking up from the binder of intel he'd been studying non-stop. "We have to make him come out, or at least make him vulnerable." His eyes lit up with an idea. "His shipment. You said he had a big one coming in. New partners." Leah nodded, moving to the main monitor. "In 4 days, it's his biggest deal of the year. High-grade cocaine from a new supplier, destined for the East Coast. It's the deal that will make him untouchable." "I found the logistics," Marcus said, pointing to a page in the binder. "It's not coming to his estate. Too risky. It's being offloaded at a staging ground first, an old abandoned rock quarry 30 miles north of here. From there it's broken down and moved by a fleet of unassuming commercial trucks." He tapped a name on the page. "The entire operation is being overseen by his number 2, a man named Rico Vargas." Leah zoomed in on the satellite image of the quarry. It was remote, surrounded by high cliffs, a perfect natural choke point. "Rico Vargas," she mused. "Thorne's most loyal lieutenant. Been with him for 15 years. He's the brains of the operation, while Thorne is the face." Loyal for 15 years is a long time, Marcus said, his voice surprisingly shrewd. Long enough to get comfortable. Long enough to think maybe he should be the one in charge. A slow smile spread across Leah's face. She looked at her nephew and saw not just a boy, but a strategist. He was right. She had been so focused on Thorn, she had overlooked the most critical piece on the board. You're absolutely right, Marcus. We're not going to hit the fortress. We're going to hit the foundation. She walked over to a steel evidence locker and pulled out the burner phone she had taken from Jed's truck. She powered it on. The battery was still half full. Thorn thinks he's fighting one ghost. We're about to show him he's haunted by an army of them. She found Rico's number in the contacts. She composed a simple, devastating message, making it look like it came from a panicked Jed before he disappeared. They know about the quarry. The ghost is DEA. Thorn's whole operation is compromised. He's a liability. My end is secure. Are you still in? She hit send. The message was a poison pill. If Rico was loyal, he'd show it to Thorn, who would still be consumed by paranoia. If Rico was ambitious, the message was an invitation to make a move, to save himself by cutting a deal or taking over. Either way, it would sow chaos and distrust inside Thorn's organization at the most critical possible moment. What now? Marcus asked. Now, we prepare, Leah said, her eyes gleaming with cold fire. We're going to hit that quarry. We're going to burn Thorn's new partnership to the ground. And in the chaos, when he's exposed and his empire is crumbling, I'm going to finish this. For David. She began laying out ammunition, explosives and tactical gear on the table. The defensive war was over. The hunt had begun. The night of the shipment was cold and clear. At the abandoned quarry, floodlights cast long, distorted shadows against the towering rock walls, creating an industrial hellscape. A twin-engine cargo plane sat on the makeshift runway at the quarry floor, its ramp down. Men swarmed around it, unloading heavy plastic-wrapped bricks of cocaine and stacking them into the back of a waiting semi-truck. Rico Vargas stood near the truck, a clipboard in hand, overseeing the operation with an air of bored efficiency. He was a compact, meticulous man in his 40s, the complete opposite of Thorn's folksy charm. He was all business. High above, on the quarry rim, Leah and Marcus lay hidden in the darkness. They had hiked in 2 hours before, using a forgotten goat trail. Leah scanned the scene through her sniper scope, while Marcus monitored a small, high-gain antenna connected to a listening device. I've got their comms, Marcus whispered, adjusting the frequency. They're nervous, talking about the team that got hit at the ranch. Rico is trying to keep them focused. Is Thorn there? Leah asked, her voice tight. Negative. Rico is running the show. He just told the pilot the transfer is complete. The plane is prepping for takeoff. Leah's poison pill had worked. Thorn was too paranoid to leave his fortress, trusting his most important deal to his lieutenant. But the text from Jed was clearly eating at Rico. He kept glancing at his phone, his jaw tight. He was on edge. Phase 1, Leah said. She had planted a series of small-shaped charges on the quarry's main access road, the only way in or out for the trucks. She took out a small detonator. Marcus, I need you out of here. Take the trail back to the truck. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, you drive. You go straight to the federal building in Austin. You give them this. She handed him a heavily encrypted hard drive. It's everything, the whole case. It's enough to put Thorn away for 100 lifetimes. I'm not leaving you, Marcus said, his voice fierce. This isn't a debate, Leah said, her gaze locking with his. This is an order. You are the insurance policy. You are the one who makes sure David's death wasn't for nothing. Now go. He hesitated, then nodded, a look of grim determination on his face. He squeezed her shoulder and then disappeared back into the darkness. Leah watched him go, then turned her attention back to the scene below. The plane's engines began to whine. The semi-truck's doors were being sealed. It was time. She took a deep breath and pressed the button on the detonator. A A series of deafening explosions ripped through the night as the access road collapsed in a shower of rock and dirt, completely blocking the exit. The men in the quarry froze, staring in disbelief at the wall of rubble. Rico immediately started shouting orders, his professionalism kicking in. "It's an ambush! Form a perimeter! Protect the product!" That was her cue. Leah fired her first shot. It wasn't at a man. It was at one of the floodlights. The bulb shattered, plunging half the quarry into disorienting darkness. Panic began to set in among Rico's men. They started firing wildly into the shadows on the rim. Leah moved, using the chaos as cover. She fired again, taking out another light, then a third. She was a phantom, her rifle barking from a new position every few seconds, sowing confusion and terror. She wasn't just an attacker, she was a psychological weapon. Rico, seeing the situation spiraling, made a decision. He wasn't going to die for Thorne's product. He grabbed a duffel bag from the cab of the truck, his emergency stash, and sprinted for the cargo plane. "Get us out of here!" he screamed at the pilot. The plane's engines roared to life as it began to taxi down the short runway. Leah knew she couldn't let it escape. She took aim at the front landing gear, a difficult shot on a moving target. She led the target, exhaled, and squeezed the trigger. The high-caliber round slammed into the strut, shredding the tire and buckling the gear. The plane swerved violently, its wingtips scraping the ground with a horrifying screech of metal before it ground to a halt. Rico scrambled out of the crippled plane, his face a mask of fury and desperation. He saw his empire, his chance to take over, literally going up in smoke. He and his remaining men were trapped. The ghost had them cornered. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the chaos. The wail of sirens, multiple sirens, approaching fast from the main highway. Leah's eyes widened. This wasn't part of her plan. She hadn't called anyone. As flashing red and blue lights appeared over the ridge, she realized the terrifying truth. Thorne hadn't just fortified his home, he had set a trap of his own. He had tipped off the authorities, likely state police on his payroll, to his own drug deal. He was willing to sacrifice his biggest shipment and his most loyal lieutenant, just to draw her out and have her caught in the crossfire. The hunter had just walked into the jaws of a much larger trap. Chaos erupted in the quarry. Rico's men, caught between the ghost on the rim and the approaching sirens, threw down their weapons and raised their hands. State troopers swarmed the area, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. For a moment, Leah was frozen. Thorne had outplayed her. She would be arrested as a vigilante, her 5 years of work discredited, and Thorne would walk away clean, having eliminated his competition and his nemesis in one move. But Thorne had made one crucial miscalculation. He had underestimated Marcus. From his position on the trail, Marcus had seen the police lights. He knew this wasn't right. He pulled out his satellite phone, his fingers flying across the keypad. He didn't call the Austin field office. He called the one number Leah had told him was for absolute, world-ending emergencies only. The direct line to Assistant Director Hansen, her old mentor at DEA headquarters in Virginia. "This is Marcus Carter," he said, his voice steady, despite the pounding in his chest. "Leah Carter's nephew. She's in a compromised position at the Blackwood Quarry, grid reference on file. Silas Thorne has sprung a trap using corrupt state police. You need to intervene. Now." Back at the quarry, a state police captain was directing the arrests, a smug look on his face. He was Thorne's man. He ordered a team to sweep the rim. "There's a shooter up there. I want her found." Leah knew she had seconds. She ditched her rifle and began to melt back into the wilderness. But just as the troopers started up the trail, a new sound filled the air, deeper and more menacing than the sirens. The thumping beat of helicopter rotors, 2 of them, black, unmarked, and flying in fast. They descended on the quarry like birds of prey, their searchlights bathing the entire scene in brilliant white light. Men in black tactical gear with DEA emblazoned in bold yellow letters on their chests rappelled down ropes before the helicopters even touched down. They moved with a speed and precision that made the state troopers look like amateurs. A grizzled, authoritative man in a DEA windbreaker stepped out of the lead helicopter and strode directly to the state police captain. "Special Agent Hansen, DEA," he announced, flashing his badge. "This is now a federal crime scene, my crime scene. Tell your men to stand down and secure the perimeter. We'll handle it from here." The captain's face went white. "Federal? What? You have a problem with that, Captain?" Hansen asked, his eyes like chips of ice. The captain, recognizing a bigger predator, wisely shook his head and started barking new orders. Hansen then spoke into his wristcom. "Agent Carter, this is Hansen. We have the scene. What's your status?" From the darkness on the rim, Leah's voice came back, laced with relief and exhaustion. "Status is secure, sir. It's good to hear your voice." In his fortified study, Silas Thorne watched the events unfold on a live drone feed, his face a mask of disbelief. This was impossible. How had the DEA gotten here so fast? His perfect trap had backfired spectacularly. His shipment was seized, his lieutenant was in custody, and now the full weight of the federal government was descending on his county. His panic was interrupted by a soft click, the sound of the lock on his office door disengaging. He spun around. Standing in the doorway was Leah Carter. She wasn't wearing tactical gear. She was dressed in simple ranch clothes, her face calm, her hands empty. "How?" Thorne stammered, his eyes darting to the security monitor, which showed his guards still patrolling the perimeter. "You have walls to keep people out," Leah said, her voice quiet but carrying the weight of 5 years of rage. "I have tunnels to get people in. My father built this house. He built a lot of things you don't know about." She had used an old storm drain that connected to a forgotten cellar beneath the house, a secret her family had kept for generations. Thorne lunged for the pistol he kept in his desk drawer. He never made it. Leah moved with blinding speed, closing the distance and disarming him in a single brutal motion. The gun clattered to the floor. She slammed him back against his desk, her forearm pressed against his throat. "This is for David," she hissed, her face inches from his. All the pain, all the loss, all the waiting was concentrated in that one moment. He could see the fury in her eyes, and for the first time in his life, Silas Thorne knew true fear. He had been beaten. He was going to die. But then, Leah did something he never expected. She let him go. She stepped back, her breathing ragged. "No," she said, more to herself than to him. "Killing you is too easy. That's your way. My brother was a man of the law. His justice is the one you're going to face." As if on cue, the office doors burst open and DEA agents flooded the room, guns raised. Hansen was right behind them. He looked from Thorne to Leah, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "Silas Thorne," Hansen said, his voice booming with authority. "You're under arrest for the murder of a federal agent and a list of other charges so long it'll take us a week to read them to you." As they cuffed Thorne, his eyes met Leah's one last time. He saw no triumph in her gaze, no joy in her victory. Only the cold, hard finality of justice served. The ghost had won. 6 months later, the Texas sun felt different, warmer. The dust that settled on Carter's respite was just dust, no longer carrying the shadow of an impending threat. The news cycle had moved on, but the fallout from Silas Thorne's arrest had been seismic. Faced with a mountain of evidence from Leah's hard drive and the prospect of dying in prison, Rico Vargas had sung like a canary. His testimony detailed 15 years of corruption, implicating judges, state senators, and dozens of law enforcement officers, including Sheriff Miller, who was now awaiting his own federal trial. Thorne's empire hadn't just been decapitated, it had been systematically dismantled from the ground up. He was convicted on all counts and would spend the rest of his life in a supermax prison, a forgotten ghost in a concrete tomb. The bunker under the farmhouse was quiet. The monitors were dark, the weapons cleaned and locked away in their steel cabinets. It was no longer a command center, just a storage room filled with painful memories. Leah rarely went down there anymore. She spent her days out in the open, mending the fences that had been cut, tending to the cattle, and teaching Marcus how to manage the ranch's finances. The hardened DEA agent was still there, beneath the surface, but the quiet, hard-working rancher was no longer a cover. It was who she was choosing to be. One afternoon, she and Marcus stood on a small hill overlooking the property, a simple stone marker at their feet. It wasn't a grave, but a memorial they had built for David. "He would have been proud of you," Leah said, her voice soft, "of both of us." Marcus, now taller and with a newfound confidence in his eyes, nodded. "I've been thinking a lot about him, about you, about what I want to do." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I applied to the University of Texas for their criminal justice program." Leah looked at him, a swell of pride mixing with a familiar ache of concern. "You're sure? After everything you've seen?" "Because of everything I've seen," he corrected her gently. "Dad and you fought the monsters in the dark, but someone has to work in the light too. Someone has to build the cases, make sure the law works. I think that's my fight." He was no longer the boy with the baseball bat. He was a young man who had found his purpose in the crucible of their war. Leah put her arm around his shoulders, pulling him into a hug. The weight of her 5-year quest for vengeance finally, truly lifted. It hadn't been about the kill. It had been about this, about ensuring the future, protecting her family, and honoring her brother's legacy, not with more death, but with a chance for a better life. A few weeks later, a black government car pulled up the driveway. Assistant Director Hansen got out, looking out of place in his sharp suit against the rustic backdrop. He and Leah sat on the porch drinking iced tea. "The agency wants you back, Leah," he said, getting straight to the point. "Name your position, instructor at Quantico, task force leader, anything. You're a hero." Leah looked out at the vast expanse of her land, the cattle grazing peacefully in the distance. "I already have a position, Director," she said with a small smile. "And I'm not a hero. I'm just a rancher who had to protect her home." Hansen studied her for a moment, then nodded in understanding. "Well, if you ever change your mind, the door is always open." He stood to leave but paused. "For what it's worth, David would be damn proud." "I know," Leah said, and for the first time in a long time she believed it without a shred of doubt. She watched him drive away, leaving her in the quiet peace she had fought so hard to reclaim. The ghost was gone, and in her place stood Leah Carter at home. And so, the story of the ghost of Carter's respite comes to a close. An empire built on a foundation of corruption, intimidation, and murder, an empire that seemed untouchable, was brought to its knees, not by a massive federal task force storming the gates, but by the quiet, unyielding determination of one woman who was pushed too far. Silas Thorne made the mistake that all tyrants make. He underestimated his victim. He saw a lone black woman on a remote piece of land and saw an easy target. He never imagined he was looking at a federal agent with 5 years of rage simmering just beneath the surface, a woman with the training to fight back and the love for her family to see it through to the very end. Leah Carter's journey was one of vengeance, but in the final moments, it transformed into something more. With her brother's murderer helpless before her, she had the power to exact the ultimate price. She could have ended it right there, a simple act of violence to answer years of pain. But in that critical moment, she chose justice over revenge. She chose to honor her brother's memory not by becoming a killer like Thorne, but by upholding the very laws David had died to protect. It was the harder choice, but it was the one that allowed her to reclaim not just her land, but her soul. She proved that true strength isn't just about the power to destroy your enemies, but the wisdom to know how they should be defeated. And in this crucible, a new hero was forged. Marcus, who started as a scared teenager caught in a nightmare, found his own strength. He became his aunt's eyes and ears, her partner in a war he never asked for. His final call to the DEA was not the act of a frightened boy, but of a decisive young man who understood his role in the fight for his father's legacy. He chose a path not of violence, but of diligence and law, ensuring that the system his father believed in would ultimately be the one to deliver justice. This story is a powerful reminder that evil thrives when good people do nothing. It shows that courage can be found in the most unexpected places, and that the bonds of family can be a weapon more powerful than any arsenal. It proves that no matter how powerful, how wealthy, or how protected someone thinks they are, no one is above the law. What did you think of Leah's final, incredible stand? Her story of resilience is one that deserves to be heard. If you were moved by her fight for justice, help us by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more unforgettable stories just like this one. Let us know what you thought about the ending in the comments below. And to show us you're a true member of our story-loving community, comment with the phrase, "I watched until the end." It lets us know who our most dedicated viewers are, and we read every single one. Thank you for being here with us. Don't leave just yet. We've handpicked another video for you. It's appearing on your screen right now. Click on it to continue the journey into another amazing story of unexpected heroes and justice served. We'll see you over there.